one of the nation's preeminent trial lawyers. He was a runner-up for Person of the Year, Time Magazine. That's how famous this guy is. Most people know him from representing Al Gore in the Florida litigation over the 2000 presidential election. He also defended, among many other people, NASCAR. And when people were going to charge them with monopolizing whatever. And he now hooked up with Ted Olson and tried a case. Well, they get him to explain it to me. Overturning Proposition 8 that was on the ballot in California here recently. Please welcome to the program, David Boies. Good morning, Mr. Boies.
Good morning. It's good to be back.
How are you?
Good.
Where are you?
I'm in Newport Beach, California.
Oh, beautiful place. So
yeah, we're having a family reunion out here, so I've got all my brothers and sisters and their children, my children, our grandchildren. It's a big group.
I have a daughter who lives in Newport Beach, California. Could she come over to, not part of your family, but...
Yeah, well, she could be.
Yes, she could. So, well, thanks for getting up early. I appreciate that. First of all, this case was what? This case you filed. Tell me about that. Just start there.
Sure. You recall that California declared that the right of gays and lesbians to marry was a constitutional right that they had under the California Constitution. And then in 2008, in November, the voters passed an initiative. You can do that in California to change the Constitution. And they changed the Constitution, the California Constitution, to prohibit gay marriage. Now, of course, the voters couldn't change the federal Constitution. So Ted Olson and I brought a lawsuit in 2009 to have that state proposition declared unconstitutional.
And you brought a lawsuit on behalf of who?
On behalf of a gay couple and a lesbian couple, who each of whom had been together maybe 10, 11 years. One of them had children together, and they had a desire to get married. They tried to get married, but they couldn't get a marriage license because the county clerk said Proposition 8 precludes us from giving you a marriage license.
How did they come to your attention?
Well, we were contacted by a foundation out there that wanted to bring an action to challenge the proposition. And they introduced us to the plaintiffs, and we talked about it and researched the law and concluded that the plaintiffs were right, that they had a right to get married.
I know I asked you that. I'm sorry.
Nobody ever quite brought the case that way. The cases have been brought under state constitutional provisions, but this was under the federal constitutional provision.
And, of course, most famously, you and Ted Olson opposed each other in that 2000 election fiasco. How did you, you may have told me this before, but tell me again, how did you and Mr. Olson get together?
Well, we've been friends, even though we were on opposite sides of the Bush v. Gore fight, and actually on the opposite sides of most political issues nowadays. But we've always been good friends, and we go on bike trips together. And when this came up, we both decided that it was a good thing to do. And it was good for the two of us to do it, because one of the things we wanted to do was send a message that this was not a Republican or a Democrat issue, not a liberal or conservative issue. Ted, of course, is probably the leading Republican lawyer in the country, having served as Bush's Solicitor General and helped him become president in Bush v. Gore.
Yeah.
And I'm associated with the other side of the aisle. And we thought it sent a message that this was a constitutional issue, a human rights issue, a civil rights issue.
Yeah. I didn't mean to blurt out that you lost, but
yeah, I did lose that. I did, and I've got the scars to show that he's a pretty good lawyer. So I thought it was a good thing to have him on my side this time.
What did you came to the public's attention, at least to my attention, even years before that. You were doing, you tried something, you did something you were working for the government. Do you remember what case that was?
You mean the Microsoft case, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That was a good case. I had another good judge in that case.
Oh no, you were great. Well, now tell me. So you and Ted won this case, right?
Yes, we did. We had a trial in January, long trial, 3-week trial, and the judge issued his opinion. Because it was a constitutional issue, it was tried to a judge, not a jury.
Right.
And he came down with his opinion earlier this month.
Now, the judge was gay, and I'm not suggesting in this question at all, believe me, that he can't render a fair decision
Right.
in spite of his sexual orientation. But was there any consideration, or did anyone introduce the issue that he should recuse himself from deciding in this case because, in fact, he is gay?
No one did. I think both sides thought he was a good judge. I think both sides respected his neutrality. Neither side objected to him. One of the interesting things, historical footnotes, is that he was first nominated for the court by President Reagan and then by President Bush. And when he was being considered, some of the gay activist groups opposed his nomination on the ground that he was too conservative.
Right.
So that was kind of an interesting historical footnote. But in this case, everybody thought he was a fair judge. He'd been on the bench for 20 years. He'd been in practice a long time. And he was very, very highly regarded, I think, by both sides.
Well,
after it's over with, the losing side can always begin to gripe. But when it was going on, nobody had any problems.
Well, that's encouraging, at least the initial part of it. Where do you and Olson go biking?
Well, the last time we were biking, we were in Italy, where the food was good, but the hills were a little too high for me. But it was very pretty.
What did you do with those guys in the Tour de France do?
Well, we go a lot slower and a lot lower.
No, but I mean, we could get you something to help you on the trip. You know?
A motor would be good. That would be the best.
So back to this case now. So what happens now?
Now it goes to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals has, because of the importance of the case, has set a very fast briefing schedule. So the briefing will be all completed this fall, and we will argue it before the end of the year in the Court of Appeals. So
the opening brief, according to my notes here, due September 17th. What's the opening brief? That's something you do, or? No, that's something they do. That's something the loser does. The loser writes the first brief in which they say, this is why it was wrong for us to lose. And then the winner writes a brief in which the winner says, no, this is why it was right for you to lose and us to win. And then the loser gets the last word in briefs. And then after the court has had some time to look at the briefs and study them, and research the law some more, then you have an oral argument. Does this go into the Supreme Court eventually? It could very well, unless it gets derailed on some kind of issue peculiar to California. I think it is going to the Supreme Court. Now, there are some issues that relate peculiarly to California that may lead the Supreme Court not to take this case as the final case on constitutionality of prohibitions of gay marriage. But if there's not something peculiar to California in the decision of the Court of Appeals, I think it is going to the Supreme Court. And considering I realize we'd have to guess what the Supreme Court would do, and that's always dangerous to do, but considering the present makeup of the court, wonder where they'd come down on this. Do you have any? Well, my deal with Ted is that he's going to get the 5 justices he got in Bush v. Gore, and I'm going to get the 4 justices I got in Bush v. Gore, and we're going to have a unanimous court. I like that plan a lot. Well, I don't know if I ever told you or not, but I'm a licensed ordained minister, and have been since 1971 actually, David, I'm a PhD in the Universal Life Church, which costs, it costs $50 instead of $25 to get that one. Anyway, so I pledged to marry my friends, Bill White and Brian Urey, who you may or may not know. I think you know. I know them. They're good people, very good people. So I'm going to marry them when it becomes legal in New York, although I've offered to go wherever they want to go to marry them. So I would be in support of this. Even if I didn't know them, I'd be in support of it. So good luck. Well, thank you very much. Let me know where that wedding is. I'll come. Oh, I'm sure you'll be invited. So, all right, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for getting up early. Okay, thank you. Take care. David Boies here in the Imus program, 14 till the hour.